We know you're mad. Shh.
We're back, folks, and Kaya's pissed off because we got cut off.
She's mad.
I don't know. Maybe it was the Russian Secret Service or the Spetsnaz or whatever. You know, they were peed off that we mentioned them in such a negative way.
They got us, man. They did.
Yeah. Well, okay, what can I say? Sorry about that, folks, but we're back.
So we're talking Connor McDavid against the Flyers.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Exactly. I'm gonna while you're doing that, I'm gonna have to embed the second thing back in the.
Okay.
But okay. Let's. Okay. It was an exciting game in Philadelphia, Edmonton and Philly. Now, was this the first game that McDavid played against Philly since the game in Edmonton when he broke his collarbone?
Yes, because he didn't play in Philly because he was hurt.
Okay, so is that right? Okay, so it's the first time that he faces up against Brandon Manning, and okay, we know what McDavid said in the post game, but for everybody that didn't know, when they played in Edmonton the last time, Manning and one other defenseman slammed McDavid into the boards. It did not appear in my mind. It did not appear to be purposeful. It wasn't like they were running him in to break his neck. I think they were just.
No, I don't think they purposely tried to break his collarbone, but it happened. Like, it doesn't matter how it happened. It happened.
Now, and this is the thing. This is the thing that's in dispute right now is the fact that all during the year after this incident, McDavid said, "I don't think he meant to do this."
Right.
Well, last night, from what I gather, Manning, to get underneath McDavid's skin, was saying, "I did it on purpose."
Or something close to that, right?
Something close to that. Now, and if I saw the replay of the goal that he scored, and let's just say there were a couple expletives that start with F, and then he called him something else.
He called him a bitch. That's fine.
Yeah, and he
and he went and he really ripped his arm. Like, McDavid doesn't do that.
No. So this was
he did.
Right. So McDavid comes out after the game and calls Manning classless. I mean, okay. First of all, do you agree with the interpretation that I don't think Manning did this on purpose? I think that what he said on the ice was basically to get underneath his skin.
Right, but I don't think it was the right thing for Manning to do. I think that's the part that's getting overlooked. I don't think anything was done on purpose, but it happened, right? And when things like that happen in hockey, there's always a payback function in hockey. And so basically, when Zach Kassian came a-calling, Brandon Manning didn't want to fight. And so that aided to really McDavid really even getting more mad, and that's why he really flew off the handle. Now, McDavid had to answer the question about it. He wasn't just offering up his opinion, but when he was asked, because in the first period it got very chippy and they were going back and forth for a number of shifts, then he offered the answer. And I understand where he's coming from because, again, this is the biggest injury he's ever faced in his life. He lost a Calder Award because of it, right? Because he probably would have won. He lost a lot of games. And this guy, that's all he's talking about. And so that, I think, is the part that's overlooked because even Manning, who I didn't see after the game, but we were furnished with a quote.
I have the quote here.
Yeah.
From Manning, from our friend Anthony Mangione.
Yeah.
I think anybody who knows me or who has played it with or against me along the road here knows that I am not that kind of player. I'm not there intentionally trying to hurt people. I'm a guy who plays the game hard, and I take pride in that. I think going back to last year, it was a total accident. I mean, there were 3 players involved, and there was never any intention on hurting anyone.
But that's irrelevant. That whole quote is irrelevant because the real crux of this is what you were saying to him on the ice.
Right.
The other teammates didn't like it. They wanted to take care of this and end this one, for once and for all. And when the Flyers didn't fight back, when nobody fought back for this, because McDavid's not going to fight. Let's be real about that. Some people were posting online, well, maybe he should have fought himself. Yeah, that was like Wayne Gretzky fighting himself, right? It didn't happen. It's not going to happen with McDavid. And McDavid did break his hand once in a fight. And so that's not happening. But at the end of the day, Manning still didn't address the issue of what was maybe said on the ice, and I don't think he's going to. And that's fine. That's his prerogative. But now when they play again in February, this is all going to still exist.
Yeah, it is. And now the thing that I think is sort of lost in this. I mean, yeah, do I think Manning was saying something to get McDavid's, to throw him off of his game? Yes. And I think it's directly correlated. And
Did it really work? No, because McDavid had 3 points, didn't he? I mean,
he had 3 points, but I think teams know that he's going to get points no matter what he does. But I think I think they think that there's still benefit in throwing him off his game and rattling him. And I think that stems from Russ. I think it stems from that Nazem Kadri game in Toronto where he got in his kitchen, he hit him. I don't know if he badmouthed him. I don't think that was the case. But, the thing is, McDavid grew up watching Kadri in Toronto, so he knows his shtick. He's a professional pain in the ass. So that's what he does. But it clearly bothered him. Now, in Philadelphia, maybe you could say this showed the growth of McDavid. He was aggravated by what Manning was saying, and he still, got past that and like you said, had 3 points. But it seemed to throw off the team too, because I saw Ryan Nugent-Hopkins slashing it. I mean, when Brandon Manning is making that much of a difference, that can't be a good thing for Edmonton.
No, and I agree. And even what McDavid lost in this process was talking about getting the last laugh, and really he didn't get the last laugh. The Flyers did because they got the win. And so There's a lot of bad blood here still, and this is going to spill over into the next game, and I think it could have all been solved, but it wasn't. So, it's going to move on. I don't think McDavid has moved into a Sidney Crosby level of crying, as some fans are saying. Matter of fact, if you remember yesterday, I asked Eck, when do I think they were going to start booing McDavid, and it didn't happen the first period, but it happened in the second period. And now he's going to be, the next time he comes to Philly, he'll be booed every time he touches the puck. So he has reached that status. And again, I don't think the injury was on purpose, but the idea is the injury happened and there was bad feelings about it because of the way the play was, and we could analyze it to death. But I don't even think that matters anymore. I think what matters is what was said on the ice, because I think McDavid had moved on from it, and when he heard those comments, that's what it really hit him. Like, okay, this guy has not moved on from this. Now this really bugs me, and I think that's the crux of it.
According to a couple reports here, it's not confirmed yet, but there are a few reports that the Leafs have traded Peter Holland to the Arizona Coyotes. Not exactly a major blockbuster. Elliot Friedman reported it about 9 minutes ago, so it sounds like it is happening for a conditional draft pick, which it'll
be like a conditional 7th that can turn into a 5th.
Right, if he plays 40 games or something like that.
Right.
So, yeah, that helps clear up a roster spot for the Maple Leafs and gives, I actually think Peter Holland has some talent. I just think, he played a little bit under Randy.
He takes up space on the ice. He plays defense. He wins some faceoffs. He can't score.
Not consistently.
No.
But he had 27 points last year, and he was playing out of position, but he scored on the power play. I think he had like the second or third most power play points on the Leafs last year.
But that's just because of time and opportunity. Like, he wouldn't get that kind of time and opportunity on most teams.
No, but he's going to a team where he might actually get that time and opportunity in Arizona, because I think Martin Hansel's their number one center. They're probably going to be trading him. So
yeah.
Okay, so and for everybody watching, we're up to we had a system problem here, and we're getting our viewers back because I had to retweet everything out, and hopefully.
I would also say with Holland being there, I mean, we're assuming he'll be at center, but this probably now gives them the opportunity to trade Anthony Duclair if they really want to.
Yes, and from all the reports, it appears that
even though Duclair plays a different position, Holland could play back at the wing too, depending on who they get.
True. One thing lost in all the hubbub last night is that the Flyers have won 7 in a row.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, they're playing well. Wayne Simmons is the best power forward in the game. Eck talks about it, and he's right. Mason, again, when there's nobody really pushing him in his position, he tends to play great. Now, yesterday was not a goaltending affair for either one. It wasn't like, goaltending was not on display yesterday for good reasons, but the team picked them up. They scored goals. They got past it. And so, yeah, now they're starting to feel a little bit. And we'll see. We'll see where it goes. We'll see how far it takes them. We'll see. Because, that first period, they were sort of feeling each other out. And it still could have been tied up at the end, too, and gone into overtime again. It just didn't this time. So that was a plus. We'll see if they build off that.
Okay, the other interesting event involving a star player last night was the game between the New Jersey Devils and the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal Canadiens have been decimated by injuries, and now even more than at the beginning of the season. Carey Price and his health are paramount for that team to have success. With Galchenyuk, with Desharnais. Greg Patterin, one of their defensemen, not as much. He's more of a 7th, 8th guy, but they're just injuries are piling up for the Canadiens. And I believe it was in the first period that Kyle Palmieri tried to cut in from the left wing, and Jeff Petrie, as most defensemen do, and I don't understand. Maybe they don't have any choice, but he, in a sense, directed Palmieri into Price, and
right.
Contact was made with Price's right knee, which I believe is the knee. That's the problem. I think it's either the right knee or the left knee, obviously. But I think the whole
50-50 shot there.
Right, yeah, exactly. The whole point is he doesn't want to be taking contact because that's how he got injured in the first place. I think all this stems back to the Chris Kreider incident in the playoffs. And Price lost it. I mean, not to the point that he started kicking him with his skate, but he gave him the waffle about 5 or 6 times before Ben Lovejoy and some other Devil players came in. Now, he got a double minor for, I assume, roughing.
Yeah.
But apparently that type of response would not have been overdoing it for him to get either a 10-minute misconduct or a match penalty. He didn't get that.
I could have seen a match penalty. That would have been fine. He did go crazy on that. He did. And really, Palmieri did not try and fight him. He didn't know it was coming, and he got pummeled, and he was a little stunned. Palmieri was a little stunned when he got up, if you noticed.
Yes. Yeah, and
he's hitting him with an instrument. It's not like he's hitting him with his hand.
No, right. And then like that Philip Larson scrum with New Jersey and Vancouver a few nights ago, all these players start piling in, and Palmieri is down on the ice. I mean, like teammates, they didn't kick him, but they could have very easily kicked him or cut him with the skate. Yeah. It just seems they just seem to react to the event more than the fact that the guy's down on the ice and down and not moving. And he was fine, but he was down, he was not moving, and they just seem to step all over the guy or not even take into consideration the guy is prone on the ice. But my thing is, okay, I get it. You're Carey Price. You missed an entire year. Your franchise had one of the worst years of their existence because you got hurt. You're overprotective because of that. Okay, and maybe it's even justified that you want to throw a little negative reinforcement at your opposition to not cut toward the net. But they're going to cut toward the net. And I almost think that this is up to the Canadiens players to defend the goaltender and not him himself. And that's where I have a little bit of problem with this. It's like, okay, is Price going to start doing Ron Hextall slashes at their knees?
No, it's not his thing. But he is sensitive now to guys running him, or when he feels like he's been run. And let's face it, I mean, goalies get run pretty good in this league right now. They do. There's constant pileups in front of them. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lot. I don't want to say it's the 70s, because in the 70s they used sticks and everything when those kinds of things occur, but guys are much bigger now too. And so when you do get run into, you do feel it more. And so I understand why the goalies get mad, but again, the goalies can't get that mad because players can't touch them behind the net. See, that's, again, if they took away the behind the net thing, then I kind of wonder if this dynamic would change.
Yeah, and I mean, right now things in Montreal are very, very tenuous because, I mean, there was talk about them being potentially interested in a guy like Peter Holland because their center situation is so bad right now.
Too many injuries, yeah.
I mean, Desharnais, who was on the outs with that team, but they would still need healthy bodies. If he hadn't gotten hurt, I mean, he would have probably had his role elevated. But right now, Plekanec is their number one. Galchenyuk is out 6 to 8 weeks. So is Desharnais. And we're talking about even more pressure being put on Radulov, Pacioretty, Weber.
This is why they paid Radulov, though. Like, he needs to come through. They did win yesterday. They beat New Jersey yesterday. That's a good win. It is. And so I still think they're going to overcome this. I do.
Well, I mean, they have Price on their side.
Yep.
So, I mean,
Price and Shea Weber go a long way.
Right. But the thing is, I mean, this goes back to my main criticism of that team for a number of years is the fact that they don't have a lot of offense and they don't have a lot of depth of offense.
But this is exactly the way Michel Therrien likes to coach. When things are a little chaotic, when he has to get the players to really buy into what he's selling them, when they have to respond to him because they're, not all hands on deck. That is the perfect Michel Therrien formula, if you think about it.
Yeah, and I mean, well,
because when things are going great and his team is like up 20 games in the standings, that's not the perfect situation for him.
No, it's not. But I mean, we all know that trade was made. I'm talking about the Subban Weber deal. That trade was made with Michel Therrien completely in mind because PK Subban. It wasn't that PK Subban was not a great defenseman. He is. He's just not the right type of defenseman to play the type of game that Michel Therrien wants to play.
Right.
So it was, and I think maybe 3 or 4 years down the line, Montreal's obviously going to regret this deal. But the thing is, Michel Therrien probably won't be around at that point.
Right.
So it really won't matter. But in the next 2 or 3 years, that their window with Price, with Weber at the top of his game, if they can get Galchenyuk and Desharnais back before the playoffs, which 2 months you're talking about late February, mid to late February. They should be fine. But I think what this illustrates is that Marc Bergevin, I think, still needs to make that 1 or 2 more additions to that team, because right now, I mean, with Price, with everybody healthy, probably they're in the top 2 or 3 contenders in the East. I still think they're going to have a tough time getting by Tampa Bay when Stamkos comes back.
Yeah.
And, if Stamkos comes back this year, even without him, they'll have a tough time. And the way the Rangers have played, in spite of the fact that they've taken a dip right now because of their injury situation, I think that's a 50-50 proposition. So,
although they pulled it out last night. I mean, they played a, largely boring game. Antti Ranta got the job done, and Hayes just really scored an opportunistic goal late. And you know what? Those are the kinds of games you have to sort of gut out when you're not playing well and you've got guys injured. And the Rangers still have just enough they can do that. And so I think.
Now I know you were at the game. You were at the Flyers game, and I don't know how much you got to see of that game, because I saw some.
A little bit.
I watched a little more of that Winnipeg game in the wake of this article that came out from TSN's Gary Lawless yesterday that basically insinuated that Line A is going to be a better player than Matthews. I mean, I all respect to Gary Lawless. He's a good reporter, and but it struck me as a little bit as clickbait, because I think it was there to poke and prod the Toronto market. Oh, yay, we got a better guy than you guys got. And I'm like, okay, and the crux of the article, I mean, I agreed with in one sense. I'm not sure they probably would have taken Matthews, but with Scheifele and Little, the need for the number 1 center wasn't as great in Winnipeg than it was in Toronto. That being said, I don't see, teams with superstar wingers. I've heard comparisons of Line A to Ovechkin, Line A to Phil Kessel. Those teams don't win Stanley Cups.
Well, but that's not the player's fault. We just have to focus on the player. We do. And the player's a great player. They're both great players. I don't know. We can't look into a crystal ball and possibly know who's going to be better. It's silly to say, based on a point value right now, that one is better than the other.
Right.
Because I think the the defensive responsibilities and faceoffs and things evens that out. And so I think we need to wait a few years, 2-3 years before that. But I think this is just a way for Winnipeg to pump up their market. That's fine. And that's all great and all well, but they still need to make the playoffs to really make this very impactful. Like, the Leafs were never going to make the playoffs, so that's not Matthews' fault.
Oh, no. Yeah, the Leafs.
Winnipeg's been a team on the verge, and now they've picked up a big-time scorer, and if they still can't make the playoffs, then obviously they have other issues as well. And so it's too much, I think, to expect a team to sort of get elevated by this much by a rookie all season long. We'll see if he keeps it up all year.
Yeah, I mean, and let me just not correct, but let me just further the point I was trying to make. Washington is a very good team. They have a great goalie in Holtby. They have a really good center in Backstrom. They got depth. Their main guy is Ovechkin, and they have not been able to get to the Stanley Cup Finals throughout all the time that he's been there. Now, that's not all on him, but a lot of it is on him.
Yes.
In Toronto, that team, that Brian Burke built team, was built around Phil Kessel. Now, Phil Kessel won a Stanley Cup last year, but he was not a main piece in Pittsburgh. He was –
well, in the playoffs he was.
He was – but he was a third-line guy. I mean,
it doesn't matter. He could have won the Conn Smythe.
I agree he could have, but I'm saying the whole thing in Toronto, he was a first-line guy. He was dependent on to score.
Yes.
In Pittsburgh, you had Crosby on the number 1 line. You had Malkin on the number 2 line. You were drawing third-line checkers against Kessel, and that's the reason why he was a difference maker, is because they had such depth that he could be more effective down on a lower line. But as a central piece, it was very tough for teams that Phil Kessel was on to win. I'm not saying that that's going to be the case with Winnipeg, because they have a lot of talent. They're deep on defense. They're deep at forward. I love Ehlers. Ehlers a good player, but they have to put it all together. And Patrick Laine could score 45 goals. They could miss the playoffs, or they could lose in the first round.
Right.
To me, Austin.
Then it could be a better playoff miss, just like the Leafs is a better last place right now.
I put Patrick Laine in the Alex Ovechkin, Phil Kessel category, and I put Austin Matthews in the Jonathan Taves, Anze Kopitar territory. Not the fact.
Yeah, not comparison, but like just the impact. I get it.
Two-way centers. They're not going to score. They're not ever going to lead the league in scoring. But that is the main piece of teams that normally win Stanley Cups. Mm-hmm. So Winnipeg can have Patrick Laine. Leafs can have Austin Matthews, and in 15 years we can determine who's going to have the better career.
Yeah.
Okay. Couple things here. Cal Clutterbuck. Good workman-like forward, tough guy, fourth liner with the Islanders.
It's like 35, 40 points.
That's what I thought, and then I looked up his stats, Russ. He had a career-high 15 goals last year, tied his career high back to one of the years he was in Minnesota. His career high was 34 points.
But that's 34, 35. Right. I mean, he doesn't get it every year, but he's capable of that. That's right.
He had 23 last year. He had 9 points this year so far in 24, 25 games.
Yeah, so you figure
5 years.
He's on pace for 34 points, 35 again.
5 years at $3.5 million. I don't know.
I don't know why people are going crazy. It's only a $700,000 raise for him. He's good in the room. He plays a good greasy game on the ice. He will get double-digit goals. I don't see – I mean, everybody's salaries have gone up. I think the problem with this deal is the perception that everybody says, well, they didn't pay Nielsen and they didn't pay Okposo. Why are they paying him?
And they didn't pay Nielsen. They didn't pay Okposo. And maybe to a lesser extent, they didn't pay Matt Martin, who got overpaid. Who got overpaid in Toronto.
He was overpaid. And then Nielsen, what is Nielsen's making? Like $1 million more a year, isn't he?
Yeah, than he did in he's making over $5 million.
He's over 5, so I mean he's $1.5 million more. I mean,
but it's the judgment of Garth Snow. It's who he did pay money for. He paid money for Andrew Ladd, who's still got 2 goals. He paid money for Casey Cizikas, who's got who's their fourth line center. Now, maybe these guys will be elevated to third line, and then the salaries are more in line with third line players. But he paid Zizekas $3.35 million. He paid Clutterbuck now $3.5 million. He paid Ladd over $5 million, and so far he's been a bust. And I think that's the problem. Who Garth Snow has paid and who he let go. And that's why I think, not to say he doesn't deserve it. I think he deserves whatever he can get. I just think that they could have spent their money a little more wisely than they have.
I will tell you this. I think based on this signing, Garth's job may be a little safer than we all imagine.
Yeah, I mean that's
now it seems more like to me that they are going to get a person that's going to sort of work with him instead of replacing him at least for another year, because otherwise why let him sign a guy? Just for the record though, just so we're real clear, Franz Nielsen's got 15 points and is a -8 where he is. And so we did know that he was overpaid too.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He was worth a lot. He was worth more to the Islanders. He was.
We know everybody gets overpaid in free agency. But the thing is, based on the production of Clutterbuck over the last few years, and what a player is paid is a sliding scale. Because
but he's an intangibles guy too. He is.
But $3.5 million for an intangibles guy is. It's way, to me, is way too much. I think anything over $3 million is you're getting into a territory where
you're basically. But here's the problem. Okay, I get what you're saying, but when he's already making 2.7, if you offer him 3 a year for whatever, he is going to get more on the open market, and then you've got another opening on your club. And this is what the problem was in the first place with losing Okposo and Nielsen. Now you're going to lose Clutterbuck too. He couldn't afford to do that anymore.
I mean, do you think this is a reaction to the fact that, Tavares is a UFA at the end of next year. Clutterbuck has been there. He's part of that group. They're trying to keep that group together.
Certainly helps. Certainly helps.
Keep that group together.
Because again, if he offered him 3, you know what Clutterbuck's going to say? Hey, I'll test it in free agency. And then Tavares would probably look around and say, boy, I don't even have half the teammates I used to.
Yeah, Johnny, we want you to stay. We want, Cal is here and Casey's here, like all your buddies.
Right.
In the end, I don't know if that's going to be the difference. I think it's going to be, where they are.
Sure.
Next year, if there's a
But they had a good win yesterday. I don't know who was in net for St. Louis. Do you?
I think it was Allen.
It was Allen?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to stick with my story that they are not ever going to win a Stanley Cup with Jake Allen in net. They're just not going to do it.
Well, far be it for me to take a bow, but the Calgary Flames are one of the hottest teams in the NHL. And, what did that coincide with? Putting Chad Johnson in goal and sitting Brian Elliott on the freaking bench.
They also got Gaudreau back, and they got a little healthier. But you're right. That's fair.
But Brian Elliott is, to me, he's not a bad goalie. He's an average goalie. He's not a number 1 goalie. He's a 1B. He's not a number 1. And neither is Chad Johnson. But Chad Johnson's hot right now. I heard Brad Treliving, the Calgary general manager, says, well, Brian is going to be part of this team. He's going to help us down the line. Well, right now, the whole reason that you're back in a playoff position is because of Chad Johnson, because the team really stepped up. So we'll see.
I just look at it, right, and I say, Jake Allen plays in front of an elite defense. He doesn't strike me as elite. In his last 5 games, you'll be shocked to know that he's only had a save percentage over 90 in 2 of them. And so, I just don't think he's the guy. But Hitchcock is never going to bring up Jordan Binnington under his watch because it's something more that he has to worry about. And you know how Hitch is with goalies anyhow. He's very tough on them. And so he's going to leave Allen alone because he knows what Jake Allen is. He's just going to leave him there, and he's going to try and win with him in there. But he's got a .908 save percentage. For a team like that, with a defense like that, that is not a good save percentage on the season. It's not.
Finally today, interesting little note here. I was interested in the stories about professional athletes, and they make all this money, and you say, oh God, what I would do with all that money? Well,
what would you do, Mike?
I can think of a few things.
Okay.
But Sergei Fedorov, who had a long and storied career in the NHL.
Yeah, name rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, made over $81 million. And according to Igor Arenko, who's a KHL reporter, Russian reporter, who I follow on Twitter,
right?
Sergei Fedorov apparently said he lost all the money he earned in the NHL before he signed back in Russia, because you remember he went back. I think he spent a couple years in Russia, and then
they paid him like a $4 million or something a year, something like that.
I have to say that right now, like he's financially he's fine because he made money in Russia. Now he's the GM at I think CSKA.
Yeah.
So he's fine. But basically, that $81 million that he earned in the NHL, he lost it all because a close friend of his deceived him. So probably invested the money for him and invested it someplace where it didn't.
That's a rough thing. I mean, I'm glad that he's doing okay. It stinks that he's sort of linked and has to stay in Russia, because if that's not what he wants to do, he has to, right? I mean, there's no real way around that now,
right?
Based on the currency being worth more money there and everything else. It's just, I also kind of wonder at the beginning how much he had to pay in Russian mob payments. I do kind of wonder about that.
Right, or they would have been referred to as agent payments.
Yeah, because if you remember, players were pretty open about what.
Oh yes,
losing every year to that.
I think one of the Bure brothers was had said that he had lost like half of his money to something like that.
Yeah, because you're playing here and their family's getting threatened over there. That was the issue.
Yeah. All in all, also a.
It was like an insurance policy, Mike.
Yes. Also, except it's not with Geico.
Right.
Also, a little interesting note here: Fedorov once again admitted he was actually married to Anna Kournikova. So the guy won a Stanley Cup and he hit the jackpot.
Was married,
yes, because now I don't know if she's still married to Julio Iglesias' son.
I don't know. Oh, Enrique? I don't know.
She was married to him for a while, but I don't know if the romance dissipated on that one. But God knows she hasn't started her professional tennis career again. But
did she have one? I mean, I don't know.
She did for a while, but
did she ever win a major? I don't think she ever won a major.
No. I think the furthest she ever got was like the quarterfinals. And probably there were some interesting calls by the judges at that point. So
yeah.
All right, so good show. We will be back on Monday. Eck will be back.
I didn't say it earlier in the show.
Yes.
Not that it matters. I don't want a Ryder Cup in the NHL. Nobody cares about the Ryder Cup in golf.
Yeah. Well, I mean, see that's the thing. Bettman did not indicate what the form of this would be. So, okay, are you telling me it's going to be basically a Team Europe versus Team North America, but it's not going to be Young Guns Team North America. It's going to be Canada and the U.S. together. Is that what it's going to be? Canada and the U.S. together against Europe. I
don't know, but you know what? If they do put John Daly on skates and he plays for the U.S., I'll watch.
Yeah, but they're going to have to clean up the cigarette butts on the ice.
All right. Listen, you probably could do that already when you're curling, so why not?
For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.